Hello and welcome to the final episode of the Genepool series. In this episode, we'll talk about the genetic diversity of Canadian durum wheat. The main perennial problem throughout the history of plant breeding is the conservation of genetic resources, the implications of the loss of genetic diversity and how to increase it again, and the methods to measure genetic diversity in self-pollinating crops. The genetic marker technology, KIN or kinship coefficient, was developed in 1993. This marker technology measures the probability that these two parents were used to create this specific cultivar within the realm of self-pollinating crops. This only works if there's already a pre-suggested parental lineage. Due to the differential between the amount of pedigree each parent gives in a self-pollinating crop due to the fact that each subsequent generation of self-pollination creates new genetic lines that have different mixes of both gene pools that are eventually stabilized, it is hard to measure true genetic diversity using the pedigree method alone. The kin method also suffers from that same problem, which is why the researcher Dr. V.D. Solomani used RFLP technology to measure the genetic diversity. These were already used in previous studies to measure the genetic diversity within land races versus modern cultivars, and was quite successful. The same process has happened in both barley and corn as well. A close related technology, AFLP, is also used to measure high levels of genetic variation to determine the gene pool within a more self-pollinated crop. Considering that durum wheat has some of the lowest amount of genetic base within the domesticated crop, even in its early beginnings, this technology is well suited for that purpose. 13 cultivars were selected and compared to determine the genetic diversity within Canadian durum wheat, and here are the results. The genetic variation within the pedigree testing method was higher than was discovered using genetic markers. The genetic variation between cultivars as estimated using the pedigree method was 0.76. Using genetic markers, so it was discovered to be 0.4. This means that overall the gene pool has shrunk quite considerably from its original starting point, far more than what was expected in comparison to what was discovered in the pedigree data. Most of the cultivars seem to be derived from two foundational lines, the ancestral durum cultivars Vernal Emmer and Capili. The higher selection pressure in modern breeding programs is likely the cause of the gradual loss of genetic variation, even with the rare amounts of crossbreeding. One of the most genetically diverse cultivars was Pellissier, which was an early selection from a land race, and was genetically far more distinct in comparison to all the modern cultivars that still exist even today. The breeding process also caused increased levels of genetic purity. The older heirloom and landrace cultivars, especially the Russian durum wheat cultivars, had a 16% rate of crossbreeding with our cultivars to maintain some heterozygosity within the population. Within Western Canada, all the cultivars only cross-pollinate between 0.2 and 4% of the time, further reducing the gene pool size. Despite that, the 0.4 genetic variation between cultivars is still quite extensive, especially in comparison to other breeding programs, and a substantial amount of genetic and a decent amount of heterozygosity is still maintained, even with the reduced cross-pollination events. The rigorous selection, however, is more or less a major factor within the reduction of the gene pool. Despite that, even within a narrow genetic base such as durum wheat, there is still a greater than expected amount of genetic diversity within durum wheat within Canada, and crossbreeding with cultivars of greater genetic difference and distance from each other would add the importation of cultivars from other nations, could improve the gene pool. And that about covers everything. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. If you really enjoyed it and think you can donate, you can do so at Buy Me a Coffee. link in description below. Thank you for watching.